Reviewing smart buttons sounds so painfully boring that I almost didn't make this video. How do you even review them? They're just a single button. What do I talk about? It's great clickability. But I'm making this video anyways because I've determined that it should be a requirement for every Apple smart home. And I'm disappointed that I didn't add one previously. These stupid little buttons are my favorite tech purchase of 2023. And even better, they're just $35. For those unfamiliar, I'll pitch the reasons for a smart button, how I personally use a smart button, give a couple creative ways to use one, and then finally, I'll give my personal experience with two different brands, Aqara and Tuo. A smart button is just a tool to help reduce the complexity of your smart home, whether it be for guests, family members, or just yourself. Smart switches are great too, but smart switches are locked into where your wall switch is, and they can only be used for your lights. While a smart button can control all of your devices, it's battery powered, it's portable, and it comes with 3 different actions rather than just one. Portability is a great selling point of a smart button, but my favorite feature is that they're non-technical. You don't have to fumble with a phone, you don't have to open any apps, you don't have to ask a precise command to your Siri on your HomePod. You just hit a simple button. So why did I originally buy my button? My wife and I needed a quick way to turn on our bedroom light strips for when the baby wakes up. I prefer not to use my phone in bed because sometimes I have troubles going back to sleep. And the idea of asking Siri the command to turn on the strips just seems a bit overwhelming at 2 a.m. So that's why we stuck a smart button on the top of our bed frame. It instantly solved all of our issues. So when the baby wakes up, we do a single tap, the lights go to 10% brightness. After the diaper change, we do a quick double tap and the lights come down to 5% and he gets fed. And then we long press the button when it's time to go to sleep and it turns off all the lights in the bedroom. And I even added one more thing to the long press where it makes sure that the back door is locked because why not? Even without the baby task, I see a lot of value in having that button on the back of the bed just to make sure that the house is always secure. If you wake up in the middle of the night and panic, just hit the button. So let's go over a few other ways that you could potentially utilize a smart button. The first idea is for old homes without ceiling lights. Just combine a table lamp with a smart light or smart plug, then use a smart button to trigger that lamp just as if it were a traditional wall switch. I have a button behind my couch too. When this button is tapped once, it triggers my version of movie mode where the lights are dimmed and turned orange, and it fires up the Apple TV. A double press brightens the lights in the room, and a long press of the button turns off the TV. Another interesting use case is to have one by an entry door that could trigger a leaving home or arriving home scene with your lights and thermostat. Home and away automations usually work more seamlessly with a geofence, but with lots of family members or people outside of the Apple ecosystem, a smart button might just make more sense in this scenario. Which brings me to the smartest use case. For guests, roommates, or wives that don't want to deal with our BS. As a nerd and a tinkerer, I've been pimping out my house with smart home gear for over 10 years now. And when you have household members who aren't quite as enthused about tech as you or I am, these buttons are a cheat code for them. I hate to admit it, but sometimes the button, even for us nerds, is just the easiest option. My wife's been a good sport with our smart home stuff, but sometimes late at night, she'll say things like, I don't want to talk to Siri right now. You do it for me. Or how often have you had guests in your house turn off that ancient light switch, which ruins your entire smart home and you can't even access your lights inside the Home app? Sometimes I swear that the guests in my house know what they're doing and they just turn off the light switches just to troll me. And in my house, if you turn off my living room smart lights, it basically ruins my entire Thread mesh network. I'm not saying every room in your house needs a smart button, but for high traffic rooms or rooms where guests might have access to, or rooms with multiple voice commands, I would consider adding a button. Don't quiz your guests on which specific voice assistant that you're using or what the names of the scenes that you have in your house are. Now, let's get into the 2 brands that I tried. I gave the Aqara wireless mini switch a try for just over a month and it did its job perfectly. On its own, the button's under $20, but the downside is that it needs the Aqara Smart Hub, which will set you back another $60. So you're looking at around $80 for a single button setup. Remember, this hub connects to your router via Ethernet and each button should be within a decent range of it. I hadn't had any experience with Aqara devices previous to this, but it seems like they're building out a solid lineup of decently reviewed stuff. In my time with it, with over 200 button presses, it delivered the command that I wanted within 1 to 2 seconds every single time. To set up the Aqara button, you'll need to download the Aqara app, set up the hub, then download the firmware, then set up the button, and then add your button to the Apple Home app. Once added to the Home app, you'll choose which scene gets triggered for each of the 3 button taps. It's straightforward, but give yourself at least 15 minutes for the entire setup. Oh, and the Aqara button and hub have a bonus feature where they can double as an emergency alarm or doorbell. It's a cool idea, but it's not something I actually see anybody using. Next, I experimented with a 2.0 Smart Button, which is another brand that I had never heard of either. After 2 months of use and over 600 button clicks, it's performed flawlessly. I can't vouch for the brand or its long-term effectiveness, but I have no reason to believe that the button won't continue to work as intended. The 2.0 button costs $35, which is twice the price of the Aqara, but it doesn't require a dedicated hub, which is why it's a better value and a no-brainer for HomeKit users. The 2.0 button works with the Matter standard over Thread and Bluetooth, which means that it'll work with any smart home platform. And the best news is that they don't even have an app. You just go to the Home app, you tap Add Accessory, scan the QR code on the button, and choose which room it belongs to. It'll be added to your home in under 30 seconds, and from there, you choose your single, double, and long press actions. It literally took me 5 minutes from the time I cut the tape on the box to when I had a button set up and configured exactly how I wanted. But remember, Matter devices need a Matter controller. Most likely, if you're watching this video, you likely have a HomeKit hub, which will serve as this Matter controller. A second generation HomePod, HomePod Mini, or any Apple TV 4K can be this hub. But I do want to quickly note, if you're choosing an Apple TV as your HomeKit hub, go with the latest 4K 128GB model because it supports Thread, unlike the 64GB model, which doesn't have a Thread radio. Devices using Thread like smart locks and smart lights typically work a little bit more efficiently than when they're on Bluetooth. To sum up, if you have a HomeKit hub already, go with the 2.0 Smart Button. It's easier to set up and it's more cost effective because you don't need an additional hub, and its awesome magnetic mounting system adds extra portability. To wrap things up, any HomeKit user with a handful of devices should strongly consider a Smart Button, considering the low price tag. They're perfect for your tech-challenged friends or family or household members, but they can also be just as swift and efficient for us tech nerds. And I'm sure some of you have been yelling at me through the screen, what about NFC tags? And yeah, I hear you. A simple tap of your phone can trigger millions of different actions. And they're even more budget friendly. You can usually pick up a pack of 100 for under $15. And with the Shortcuts app, you can actually do more advanced things than you can with buttons. I've got a few NFC tags, like one under my desk that toggles on my studio lights for my YouTube videos. However, NFC tags have their limitations. They require some tech savviness. You have to understand the Shortcuts app, and they're not universal solutions. So each person who wants to use the tag has to set up the tag on their individual device, which also means that they're unfriendly to guests. And I found with NFC tags, the accuracy really matters. Maybe I just got a bad batch of NFC tags, but in my experience, my phone needs to be in a very precise position for it to trigger my action. There are days where I'll put my phone under my desk like 5 times before it finally triggers the lights. And it's always a little bit slower than a button would be. So whether you choose NFC tags or smart buttons or a combination of both of them, it's all good. My goal was just to shed some light on these really non-technical buttons because I don't see anybody else talking about them. So now over to you. If you do have a smart button, how has it changed your routines? Like, what do you use it for? So that's all I have for this video. Thanks for watching. I'm out.